Hello. When you pictured yourself going to the US, I'm sure you had a picture of you arriving at the airport taking a selfie, a trip to New York Times Square, another selfie, and then going to Disneyland, and of course, Theater at the Apollos, and even the very famous musical Chicago and all that jazz. Well, what I see here and what I hear here is that you're just making preparations, packing your bags, and not even factoring the cost to your wallet. You see, when you now get to the US, all sort of expenses coming left, right, and center, hitting that same wallet. Your wallet is bleeding, and you begin to imagine, where is all these coming from? This is a typical immigrant story from Africa and other places, a black man coming to the US. My name is Armstrong Idile, and here at CONASA Legacy Partner, we are here to help you build stability, wealth, and a long-term legacy in the United States of America. We are here to help you navigate through these hidden costs, because for all your planning and your preparation, there are costs associated with it. Now, why are we coming from with all this conversation? What's the big idea behind this conversation? What's the big deal? What's the big picture? Well, when you're planning that trip to the US, what you would usually do is go to Google and search for temporary accommodation, transportation, and all that stuff. But Google is not going to give you the details and the hidden costs to get from us here at CONASA Legacy Partners. They won't tell you all that. However, these costs are real. They're not real to you on a search engine like Google, but they become your reality when you get to the US. And what are these hidden costs? One, housing and utilities. In the US, temporary accommodation is not going to cut it for you. Those things, at the long run, very expensive to maintain. So you need a place that you can call your home. And to get a place of your own, you have to factor in what they call a security deposit, down payment for a house. You have to factor in things like paying for gas, utilities, retrofitting and fitting the accommodation, kitchen utensils, electricity and internet. Those costs you have to factor in into housing and utilities. Next is transportation. For big cities, you don't have a problem because buses and trains are your go-to transportation route. However, suburbs and suburban areas, you most likely have a need for a car, to go get a car. And to get a car, you have to factor in costs like maintenance fees, insurance, and gas. Again, the cost hidden to you, you don't get to see on Google. Another hidden cost that you have to factor in is health and insurance. Health and insurance are not optional for you when you're living in the US, because things like out-of-pocket maximum prescriptions, these are things that you cannot be paying from your pocket. You need to get insurance to be able to, do that. Again, costs that are hidden to your eyes, but here at CONASA Legacy Partners, you would get those details. Another hidden cost, banking. You need to get a bank that will help you build your credit. Credit is the backbone of the American life. Credit is the backbone of the American dream. And to do that, you need a bank that will help you build that so that you don't keep living on what you have and what you've saved before going to America. Otherwise, you will burn out. And when you burn out, that would, become another, immigrant story like I talked about in the beginning of this video. You don't want that. Another thing again you have to factor in is those lifestyle that you were living when you were in Africa or before you got to America. Everybody can come to you. You have privileges, you have connections, that communal life where you're giving to this person, you're giving to that person, you're paying from your pocket, you are like a provider, your wallet is a bill collector. In America, it is not going to cut it, because at the end of the day, you don't want to burn out. And when you burn out, that is not how to start your American journey. So these costs, they are real. Housing and utilities, transportation, medical, health and insurance, banking fees that you pay, to get a bank that will give you a very good credit score. These are very, very important things that you have to factor in your American journey. So what's the next step? Well, have a financial plan. And here at Konasa Legacy Partners, we have the strategies to give to you to achieve that. Nothing major, nothing complicated, very simple, very basic. 6 to 12 months plan, you can start with that. Have a 6 to 12 months plan, where you have like a spreadsheet, have a cap like a $500 for emergency fund, $1,000 for expenses in a month. This way you have financial discipline. You know what you're spending. You're not outspending yourself. You're not trying to chase the American dream and also drowning in the course of doing that. That will check you, and then it will also help you towards financial stability. Again, so doing this, do not forget the hidden cost in your planning. One is housing and utilities. You need that. Security deposit, very key. Another is health and insurance. Factor that as your cost. Banking fees, get a good bank, build a good credit score so that you'll be able to get credit in the long run. Transportation, very important. You most likely will be living in those suburban areas because they are affordable and they are cost effective. It's a cost effective way of getting into the American system. You don't want to be thinking New York, big cities, very expensive, very, very expensive. Again, this cost, factor them in. If you really, truly want to live the American dream and you want to have these tools, we don't call them survival tools at Konasa Legacy Partners. We call them tools to help you build stability, build wealth, and a long-term legacy living in the United States of America. Very important. And if you want to break that cycle of living from paycheck to paycheck, all you need to do is come for our Financial Foundation workshop on Thursdays. They are free. We don't charge you time. Just come and get all these hacks. We'll do a deep dive in these classes, this workshop. Do a deep dive into all the things I've talked about on how to gain financial control, of how to be in control of your money. Take ownership of that, because it is the first step to living and achieving that American dream. Again, you want to break the cycle from paycheck to paycheck. Konasa Legacy Partners Financial Foundation to help you build stability, help you build wealth, and that long-term American dream, that long-term legacy of living in America is your go-to act. I'll see you soon.